The Lizardmen have always been apex predators, at the top of the food chain since the days of the old ones, and one look at them makes it easy to see why. When you combine an unstoppable old blood with an immovable Carnosaur, things get real scary for just about every enemy on the planet, and demons of the warp don't want to get too close either. Kroq-Gar and Grymloq are scary dudes, mainstays of the Lizardmen faction, and often the ones leading the charge for the Scaly Boys. This is a match from the finals of the most recent Dogs of War tournament, and there are some pretty interesting builds on display. Dual Ankylosaurus with solar engines provide a ton of flexibility. You can snipe with them, deal some pretty decent damage from range, they cause terror and are good HP sinks in a melee grind, they're quite tanky, and they debuff enemy battle lines, lowering attack, defense, and accuracy on anything they shoot. It's a lot of utility in one package. Unfortunately, they're ridden by some of the jankiest little skinks I've ever seen. I have no idea how floating lizards made it past QA, but I guess all things are possible with the old ones and their invisible platform technology, so maybe it was intentional, but either way, it looks really dumb. And I'm very happy to see Kroq-Gars have joined the party as well. They got additional AP and weapon damage in the Queen and the Crown patch, and they will bully infantry with aerial support from a Lord of Heaven Skink Priest. Nothing shocking there, except for the lightning bolts that can rain down from above, but we'll probably be seeing a lot of wind blasts which can delete handgunners and Empire infantry pretty easily. But even with all that, what can Lizardmen do when Karl Franz summons the Elector counts? It's the Warhammer equivalent of going Super Saiyan. No enemy can withstand the Call of Sigmar. In the face of Warhammer Fantasy Battle, the Prince of Altdorf himself showing up in a tournament final with the Imperial Griffin Deathclaw. Bold strategy, Cotton, let's see if it pays off for him. All joking aside though, there's nothing inherently bad about Franz. He hits hard, has a great mount and fantastic mobility. He just needs support. So if you see him, you're probably going to be seeing a life mage on the field because regrowth is the best way to make sure he gets his full potential. And a warrior priest will be bolstering the presence of those great swords and Empire foot troops. He got 35 more armor in the last patch and obviously has some nice buffs that can keep Imperials in the fight for quite a bit longer against Saurus and the much stronger core troops of the Lizardmen. Regrowth and Earthblood on that Jade Wizard, some Imperial Knights, Reichsguard, Silver Bullets, and Outriders will round out the build, and we'll get this one started off right now. Solar Engines will be targeting the Great Swords early, and that's a very good target for them, because the Great Swords are one of the few Imperial Infantry units that can actually go toe-to-toe and actually kind of beat the brakes off of Lizardmen Saurus. I'll tell you what's not a great way to start a battle though, shooting Grymloq in the ass with your own God Rays. Pretty sure that's not part of the great plan, and Kroq-Gar will retreat as Grymloq licks his hiney, licks his wounds. He'll be fine as the Outriders get a couple more shots into him, but popping that physical resist, he'll be completely fine there. Yet another shot goes forth into the Outriders. One got canceled there from the other Solar Engine Bastiladon, and they'll be trying to equalize those numbers a bit before melee closes in, but Hand of the Gods getting let rip and almost deleting that Jade Wizard from the game off the back of one cast. He'll stand there for a few seconds like, what just happened? And then regrowth himself to get back in the fight. If he could have gotten both Solar Engines shooting that Jade Wizard at the exact same time, might have just ended his presence for good, which would have been a huge blow to the Empire. But the melee grind is about to begin. Swordsmen on the flanks charging into the Saurus, and they will lose that fight, but it'll be a while, especially if they're backed up by the benefit of the Warrior Priest and all his buffs, and Reichsguard will charge in from behind. Now, I've got to be honest here. This is not something that I like about the Warhammer battle mechanics in general. I don't think this is really a viable thing at all in other Total War games. If you charge into the back of your own stuff in Shogun 2, you won't do damage to your stuff, but you won't really do damage to the enemy either. In Warhammer, you will actually get some kills and do some HP damage charging into the back of your own things and then going through, because the charge bonus lasts for a while. And I don't like that. I don't think that should work. I think you shouldn't do damage to your own stuff. I'm fine with it not trampling your own guys. At the same time though, pretty much no damage whatsoever should get transferred over to the other side either, because the entire impetus of that charge is completely blocked. So I don't really like that. I don't really like seeing that in multiplayer, but I can understand why some people do that. And it doesn't do that much damage. It's much less effective than a normal charge. Still not a big fan of it though. Great Swords charging up the center into the Saurus. Warrior Priests backing him up, and with the benediction, that +8 leadership and his damage resistance aura, that'll be really nice for the Great Swords, and they should be able to do very well in prolonged melee combat with the Saurus and maybe even punch through. And speaking of punching through, Empire Swordsman looking like a snack for those Cold One Spear Riders, just flattening the front ranks and keeping on chugging. And those state troops are pretty much going to instantly break, which is huge, because Lizardmen now have a very easy avenue of attack into the Empire back line, while the Skink Priest is not really where he should be, getting picked apart by the silver bullets from far below, and the Warrior Priest anchoring the center of the Empire formation, while Reiksguard have found their way around and going for that glorious hammer and anvil they're so well known for. That is how I like to see cavalry used, and they'll make the hunters the hunted with the tips of their lances there. Solar Engine Basilodon still firing in, although they'll need to work on getting a good avenue line of sight, while it's kind of like a tale of two flanks right now. Cold Ones have broken through, and so the cavalry for both factions doing well on their respective flanks, but Grymloq coming in to bolster the left flank for the Lizardmen, and Swiftness of Itzel has been popped. Kind of a weird usage of that right now, honestly, because he's going to want to commit to that fight for sure. Bonus for large and AP will be very nice as Karl Franz and Deathclaw come in, and we've got a duel of monsters here. The Imperial Griffin versus the terrifying Carnosaur, and that should be very interesting, although Karl Franz just got hit by the blinded debuff. That will make it very hard for him to deal damage in that fight, so we'll check back on that in a bit. Kroq-Gar is doing well in the center as expected, and a beautiful hammer and anvil from the Cold One Spear Riders into the back of the Empire left flank. Means a lot of those units are starting to break now. Outriders providing what support they can, but the Empire Knights and the Empire State Troops shredded in the center there, pinned between the Kroq-Gars and the Cold One Riders. Kroq-Gar on the run here though, and kind of isolated at the moment, and he doesn't have Swiftness of Itzel, which is important, because he's going to want that. Wind Blast will rip through the flank of those state troops, rather the Silver Bullet handgunners, and Kroq-Gar thinking about popping Cold-Blooded out on this flank here. Kind of, yeah, he'll be fine. Nothing really near him. Karl Franz doesn't really want to take a 1v1 fight with a Carnosaur. Wouldn't be ideal, even though he does have 500 weapon strength. Kind of scary. And the front ranks of the Cold One Spear Riders getting mowed down by those silver bullets, but they'll charge forward now and should be able to munch them for dinner. Good night to those handgunners. I don't think we'll be seeing them again. But the Jade Wizard needs to be real careful, maybe getting a bit overzealous near those Spear Riders. Remember, they have bonus first large, and he's on a pony, and he'll get destroyed if he sticks around. Karl Franz don't really want to land next to them either. Kroq-Gars are beating up on these knights, should have no problem dealing with that, even though they are bonus versus infantry. I mean, look at those weapons, man. You don't want to get smacked by that. You don't want to be fighting Kroq-Gars in hand-to-hand combat, period. They will literally eat you. And then Grymloq over here, I mean, he's just being the terror that he's so well known for. Tail thwafts, sending giblets showering into the sky, and he'll snack on the Empire State Troops over here. There's not a whole lot they can do about it. I mean, they're swordsmen. They have no real way to deal damage to him, and they will terror out in very short order. But another nice hammer and anvil from the Imperial Knights, and there's not a lot of infantry left for the Lizardmen. Kroq-Gars seem to be sustaining pretty well, although isolated out on that flank, they might not do too well. On this side, Spearmen are still alive, and the Warrior Priest and some of those Greatswords have punched the center, getting into the back and dealing with the Solar Engine Basilodon. Karl Franz doesn't want to land quite yet. Too many scary terror-causing dinosaurs nearby. Solar Engine letting it rip. And that wasn't the Jade Wizard, but I think it butchered some of his own raptors. Will cause them to shatter here. And Grymloq will pop. Swiftness of Itzel going directly after that Jade Wizard. One attack will send him very close to the brink of annihilation. And he'll rout, but not shattered. That is important. Very important. As he gets surrounded now. Kroq-Gar not in a good position. Outriders actually committed to the fight here just to pin him in place, prevent that mass, that incredibly terrifying and super fast dinosaur from moving. And it's working for the moment, although there are some good shots from the Solar Engine coming in, and Karl Franz needs to be real careful. So does Grymloq and Kroq-Gar though, and the Empire will kind of soak up those losses and say, hey, let's get out of here before we take too much damage. Because if Franz goes down, this battle will be over for the Empire. He has the benefit of the Lore of Life, though, if the Jade Wizard manages to come back. And Kroq-Gar has used all his cold-blooded charges, so I think the Prince of Altdorf has realized that. His name is Franz, they will obey, and the double dinosaur looking very confused as Deathclaw got a nice view of Grimlock's shapely glutes there, kind of stared at each other's butts for a bit, but regrowth going down on the Imperial Griffin, and that's important. That is really important as we move into late stages here. Think about how good regrowth is. It's just about 1,500 health going straight into Karl Franz, the most important unit on the field. And Solar Engine doubling as a melee battering ram. Wind Blast going through, knocking down quite a few of the Empire State Troops. And this King Priest, the Lord of Heavens, has come back. Still making an impact here. Still probably has plenty of Winds of Magic too. I haven't seen any really big cast this game. Terror routing on both sides. But the Imperial Knights starting to get some charges into the flanks here. Bastiladons, very tanky. They will be very tough to bring down. But the important thing right now is the leadership stay high for the Lizardmen, which means protecting Kroq-Gar, not getting aggressive with him now. He needs to stay near those Kroq-Gars, stay near the Solar Engine Bastiladon, and make sure that he can't get isolated. Because if he does, if he goes down, leadership penalty will be too disastrous for Lizardmen to stay in this fight, as yet another Wind Blast goes through those Empire State troops. A shot from the Jade Wizard, his bound spell going forward, and Solar Engine turning. He didn't like that. He didn't like seeing Jade Wizard get aggressive there, and a God Beam will take him out. And the Lore of Lifecaster now out of the fight. Now, I'm not sure how he was doing on his Winds of Magic pool, but still a big blow to the Imperial leadership here, as more of those kind of low morale Imperial State troops charge forward now. But there's a big fight brewing. Kroq-Gar is wavering. So are the Kroq-Gars, and the Imperial Griffin with Blood Roar, that -9 leadership penalty, or -8 leadership penalty in an AoE, will actually cause a rout here for some of the most important Lizardmen troops. And now it's looking like Solar Engines might be the only thing left. And they're tanky, they're very survivable, but without the benefit of their Kroq-Gar leadership, without the benefit of their old blood, this could be very tough, and there's absolutely no way they're going to deal with Karl Franz in melee, and that will be the battle. The loss of their leader will cause a chain rout, and the Imperial Knights and Karl Franz, Prince of Altdorf, will take it. Very cool to see the Prince himself win this battle in the finals of a tournament with a lot of really good players. Tloxlon Soothsayer played very well that game, and I love seeing Karl Franz make it into a competitive situation. By Sigmar, yes, very good stuff. So, Solar Engines were fantastic that game. They debuffed important units when it was required. They got a ton of kills, weakened those greatswords. The only thing I would have changed from them was to maybe put a bit more energy into killing the Jade Wizard, who got 2 full regrowths and an Earthblood on Karl Franz. Bit more focus on the Mage, bringing him down early after that beautiful Hand of the Gods could have maybe been enough to turn the tides towards the Children of the Old Ones. Kroq-Gars molts through those state troops, had no problem there. Missile Resist helped them survive the Silver Bullet Fire. And Kroq-Gar might have just been a bit too overzealous at times. I think he was off doing his own thing a little bit too much, which allowed the Prince and his poppers to take advantage on a handful of occasions and pin him down and do a lot of damage that way. It was cool to see the Empire actually commit to a melee fight, though. Normally you'd see a heavier focus on mobility and skirmishing, but with support from the Warrior Priest and the Reikland Runefang, they traded pretty well in that melee grind, and definitely an interesting game for sure. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I certainly did. Good game to both players, and I'll see you next time. Indie Pride, signing out for now.